Hello everyone, welcome to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. How many times do I start the show with my mute button still on? If you're keeping count, I'd love to know because it seems every second show that I do that. I hope you've had a great weekend. I hope I enter into today's show a little bit nervous about the tech because I've been tweaking and fiddling with settings, so I'll be keen to hear from you to let me know, Linda, that everything is going a-okay and that it all looks fine. We have got some exciting weeks coming up. I just want to let you know very quickly before we get into the Q&A. Next week we've got Nadine Manion coming in. She's a special guest. She's a Sydney singing teacher. Hello to all of my New South Wales and Victorian colleagues who are all in, and students and people who watch the show who are currently in lockdown, quite the challenge. I'm just checking my, yes, all good from Linda. Let me know in the live document, Linda, if you wouldn't mind, just as we go along. So where was I going? Yeah, so hello to all of you down south who may well be currently in lockdown. So many of you in the show watch the show from the Northern Hemisphere, but here in Australia, we're having quite a different experience with the ongoing sort of longer approach to COVID, and that's sort of turned around and bitten some of my southern friends. So hello to those in Sydney and those in Melbourne and Victoria. And so Nadine is from Sydney. She's going to be joining us in the show next week. Now, I have for a number of weeks been telling you all about next week's show because we're going to be talking about the transgender voice. And I'm just letting you all know because this is a very sensitive subject. It's such an important subject. Here at Voice Essentials, we are a community for everyone. This being said, I know that this particular subject can be one that can be quite challenging for some people, whether it be from a religious basis, whether it be from a historical basis, their own interactions with transgender. And so I want to just let you all know that that's what we're doing next week. And if you feel that it will be a show that may be uncomfortable for you, then it may be a show that you don't want to engage with. I encourage you, though, to visit and come into the show because I want us to all learn from what Nadine is going to be sharing with us. I have had the great privilege of working with transgender voices and wonderful people, bar none. And you know, on such a interesting journey, but it has been a couple of years since I've worked with transgender voice, and there is so much advancement that has been happening, both you know, understanding as to how to work with those voices and all those sorts of things. So Nadine is right in the thick of it, and so she's going to come on next week and share those things with us. And once again, we're going to when we come to next week's show, I will just lay out some ground rules as to the comments and all those sorts of things. This is a safe space for everyone, and that's going to be really important when we come to doing the show. The week after that, we'll do another Q&A. The week after that, and I'm really excited about this one. You know, when you work in an industry, some colleagues become friends, and one of my closest friends within the singing teaching community, who has become a very dear friend to me, her name is Sharon Tree. She is from Canberra. In fact, she's originally from Brisbane, my hometown, but she's been in Canberra for many years now, and I only ever get to catch up with Sharon. We catch up online occasionally with it via a Zoom call, but mostly we get to spend time with each other at conferences. Anyway, Sharon's going to be coming onto the show. I'm so looking forward to just hanging out with her. You are going to love Sharon. That is going to be on the 9th of August. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, that'll be the 8th of August. But anyway, normal time, Mondays, 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Can't wait for that show. Sharon's really passionate about music theatre, and so we may talk about that, but we may also find ourselves talking about the intersection of the complexity of the human being and the human being's psyche. And anyway, that's a few weeks down the track. Couple of things more. Hey, have you noticed, am I looking a little brighter on camera? I hopefully I am, because, and let's see if I can bring this up, because I have got some new lights. Now I'll just get rid of that. If I bring that up, can you see this light here? So there's actually another one right there. These are brand new lights. I used to have some other lights that would come on, and they were from Big W, like a chain, Kmart kind of chain store here in Australia, and chain retail. And anyway, they were like very, 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 very cheap. They kind of did the job, but these beauties are proper streaming, so hopefully it's all looking a little bit clearer and cleaner. I really do want this show to be the very best that it can be. So yeah. Hey, you'll have also noticed that I've been fiddling a bit. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll notice that I've been fiddling with some new formats. And I'm really keen to get your feedback on, in particular, my in-studio sort of recordings. You know that I'm very passionate about authentic and real display of voice. So much of what we see, and I'm talking specifically to the learn to sing space, so much of what we see online has been so produced and polished and doctored. And there is a place for excellence, and I'm not speaking against excellence. Of course, that's the reason why I bought new lights. I want the show to really, really pop for you all. But I also want what we do here at Voice Essentials to be real, to be authentic, to be genuine. And so what I want to start doing, and I'm always going to be doing this with the permission of the participant, I'm going to be starting to just grab 5-minute snippets of in lesson with me and a student. Now, sometimes, as it was last week, it's just going to be me talking about a particular subject. I was talking about pressure and flow and how that plays in on volume. You can check that out on the channel. In future, it might be that a student sings a piece and we work on it, or we do an exercise and we work on it. And we just give you a little bit of an insight into what happens in a real singing lesson. Now, I acknowledge I'm taking a little bit of a risk in doing this for, the trolls and the haters. But, we've got to respond to some of these, the inauthentication of, that's not even, the disingenuous nature of some of the things that we engage with online. And one of the ways I think we can do that is to respond with genuine, real. Now, it's not always going to be pretty, but that's the point, right? Is that this human condition is complex and rough and raw and imperfect, but that's what makes it wonderful. So anyway, so keep an eye out on the channel for that. Now, some of you in today's chat have been asking after a new little setting that I'm just going to trial it. We'll see how we go. Certainly today, excuse me, I have been really poor with my water today. I've been so in the flow with working on tech and whatever that I have not been drinking enough water. You know, you've got to remember to drink the water. You get into a zone. Anyway, so what I'm trialing with is I've turned on a particular function in the chat so that only subscribers can comment in the live chat. So you might ask yourself, why have I done that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. First and foremost, I want to answer the questions of my subscribers. I want, for those of you who follow the channel, you're engaged with the channel, you're the people that I want to really serve and support. On one level, it also encourages people to subscribe. You can, of course, to subscribe to Voice Essentials, it's no cost. So it doesn't take much to go over to the channel, subscribe, and then in fact, I think you can just subscribe at the bottom of this video. And then you do have to wait 5 minutes, and then you'll be able to make a comment and leave a question. And it's also going to hopefully just really distill the questions, because we have been, as you know, if you watch the show every week, I get hammered with questions. We never get through them all. I don't know that this is going to change. In fact, I think we're about to go to question 10. We've just gone to question 10 for today, and I haven't even got started. But nonetheless, it also, finally, one more thing that it does is it does just help sort of an automated moderation, if you will, from bots and from really nasty comments that can come through, which Linda does such a wonderful job of, cleaning out. But, if we can cut them off at the pass before it even needs to be cleaned out, that even better. So if you do want to have a question answered, or you want to leave a comment, then simply subscribe. We'd love you to join what is become, we're up to 192,000 people who have subscribed to this channel, and each and every one of them are passionate about the development of their voice. And so if you haven't yet subscribed, we would love for you to join us. We're a good bunch, and we love hanging out here every Monday at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time for the live show. And I do a whole heap of pre-records and all sorts of things, so we'd love for you to jump in and participate. There you go. I think it's time that we got to looking at some Q&A. So let's do it. Okay. Q&A. Here we go. So, Joy Taradicha Sanyul, I always give it a shot. Sir, I used to sing at the highest with a louder voice because of wearing earphones from morning to night. Will it affect my adolescent's voice? How to make my voice good now? And can that affect my singing voice permanently? And you state that you're a 16-year-old male. Certainly, I encourage, and in fact, in my online course, I have not a warning per se, but a very strong recommendation to only practice certainly your technical exercises without headphones or earbuds or however you might be listening to the music. Always have the music sitting external to yourself. And the reason for that is, what I want you to do is develop the acoustic value of the voice without your fingers in your ears. In fact, if you just do that now and put your fingers in your ears, you will notice that it changes the acoustic that you're identifying with, and so that's not great to really developing the voice. The other thing that it will do is it really stands the chance that what it's going to do is it's actually going to cause you to drive the voice a lot harder. So you're going to really work, probably overwork the voice. That's the second thing. And so that can be quite, I'm just going to get rid of that message. So that can be quite the challenge. And so it's going to, it wears and tears. It doesn't really develop the voice in the way that we'd probably want it to. And so, and then on top of that, from an adolescent voice point of view, we do want to make sure that we're very measured in what we do with a voice that is going through one of the most major changes of its lifespan. And I think, unfortunately, young people can find themselves really giving the voice a bit of a hard whack at a time when I think it's better to be not using it, but certainly being measured and being mindful and being careful in how we use the voice while it goes through this significant change of adolescence, puberty. So, so all of that being said, will that affect your singing voice permanently? Unlikely, though it can. Certainly what we do with our voice at any point in time can have long-lasting effects. But I don't know that you have to be too concerned. Really, if you are concerned, the best thing for you to do is to go and see a laryngologist. If you can't find a laryngologist, an ear, nose and throat doctor would be the next port of call, and just ask them to do a voice assessment for you to find out if there's any, any concerns. More often than not, any findings that a laryngologist may or may not find, more often than not, they are functional. That's not to say that they won't be organic, pathological, but the pathology issues of the voice, it's more often than not that we find functional concerns. And so that's something to be aware of. Kelly, my weekly Friday student, which is Thursday night for you, Kelly. Thank you for the super chat. Hey, everyone, if you do want your questions answered, if you want to jump the queue, I do always answer super chat questions, just like Kelly has placed in there. Okay. I'm offering... So Kelly's thrown in a super chat here. I'm offering a super chat, a super hat, a super chat. So Wicco's question about next week's session and voice dysmorphia gets answered. So I'm going to find, so here we go. I'm looking for Wicco's. So I'm going down to question 6, Linda. So here we go. So obviously Kelly has a similar question. Dan, I have vocal voice dysphoria, although it has been better lately because I've been on antidepressants and people help me cope. Will I be able to ask questions when we're talking with Ms Nadine? As you know, Wicco, because you watch the show quite a bit, when I've got a live guest, I need some more water. Hang on, everyone. See, this is what happens when you don't regularly drink for a number of hours. I'm really lacking in my hydration. And so I think we'll be revisiting the water bottle a few more times as the live continues today. Completely my bad. Just so focused. Anyway. So Wicco, as you know, when we do have a live guest, there are occasions where I will be able to grab a question from the live chat and ask it live to the guest, but so often the guest is bringing so much to the table, information that we sometimes don't get those questions answered. And so I'll do my best to keep an eye out, and Wicco, just remind me in the moment when we get there, and we'll see how we go. But that's often the case. Just a follow-up from, and thanks Kelly for throwing in that super chat there for Wicco, just to answer that question. Back to question 1, there's a follow-up. Sir, the ENT doctor told me that my vocal cords are well, but I feel that my voice is somehow bad than it was before. I do want to just highlight, notice that I said the preference is a laryngologist, or it's certainly a specialist who can not just use a mirror. Often an ENT, a general ENT, will just have a look at the vocal folds via a mirror. To get a really good look at the vocal folds, we do need to use a nasendoscopy and get some really high quality video stroboscopy footage from what's going on there. So can I encourage you? I'm just going to bring my chair up. Feeling a little. So if all that was used was a mirror, then that may or may not give us that conclusive evidence that we really need. If you did have a good look, and the ENT was able to get a really clear picture of the vocal folds, and they gave you the all clear, then that, as I said before, that directs us back to this idea that it's going to be more a functional issue than a pathology one. And your ENT, they're not going to get too concerned about function. That's where you get passed on to a speech pathologist, and then perhaps, if you're lucky, a singing voice specialist like myself. So that's, there you go. Kane Hendrick, how does Bon Jovi hit that really high note in the song I'll Be There For You? Well, how does Bon Jovi hit any high note in pretty much, it's one of the really exciting things about Bon Jovi's voice. Look, this is a funny thing to hear me say, but I mean, firstly, I don't know what Bon Jovi's instructional background is. Is Bon Jovi just simply a naturally orientated, what we might call naturally gifted, talented singer who just does everything right all the time intuitively? Those people, it has to be acknowledged, those people do exist. They're as rare as hen's teeth. And I'm yet to meet anyone who doesn't benefit from some instruction in some area of their voice. Now, I'll never have the opportunity to work with Bon Jovi. But there are certain things that as a singing teacher, you have, I have worked with some voices that have celebrity status, and more often than not, what we are hearing on our recordings via Spotify or, CDs or whatever, LPs, Bon Jovi's old enough to go back to the LP day, the cassette, that's been so produced that it's far removed. It's traveled a long journey from just a singer walking into a space like my studio and going, yeah. It's not until I hear a voice give me a 5-note scale that I am able to really determine, okay, where is this voice actually at? And a voice that may be quite challenged in developing well-developed tone and acoustic and whatever, in the studio may yet be a voice that in performance people are just like screaming and, you know, loving it. But that does not mean that they are a technically fully achieved voice. So it's just something to be always conscious of, that, you know, you've got to see a person do it in front of you live, and not just at the concert. Sometimes there's a lot of help going on, you know, production wise in the concert. Really, you've got to hear them off a mic in a room. So yeah, yeah. I'm not going to say any more about that. Okay. 124 and the all tech as well I get from Linda, which is good. Alexandria, I am in college as a music major in voice. That's exciting. And what are some tips for making singing and dancing easy without losing breath? Oh, this is a very difficult one, Alexandria. And, you know, well, do I say unfortunately? In fact, I was just been reading again around the subject of music theatre, and you know, the comment being made that when music theatre programs, or actually not music theatre programs, music theatre shows, if we were to go back 30 years, music theatre performers were singers first, dancers second, and, you know, actors third, if we're thinking about it from that sort of triple threat point of view. Now, where we've got to a point really where it's almost actors first, dancers second, singers third. The voice, you know, the director, the music producer, the music director, I should say, they certainly want the performer to sing in tune and be able to do all those things. But as far as the care of the voice, it's not their primary concern. And so as a result, the orientation is to, I want you to be able to see you make those moves. And some of the moves, you know, if you've been to a music theatre show recently, you know, you will know that the dancing, and Alexandria, I'm sure you know this better than most, the dancing is intense. You know, what the skill required to do the dance and the hours required to develop the dance. You simply, on a physical basis, you cannot spend as much time working on your voice as you can working on your dance and your acting, purely from a physical point of view. And so we become our bodies become very orientated towards our dance, more so than our singing. The challenge of that is our bodies become orientated towards the way we breathe to do the dance before they become orientated to breathe for our singing. Unfortunately, they're almost polar opposites, those two. A dancer is constantly being encouraged to hold the tummy wall and the core, you know, being well toned. In singing, we're constantly encouraging the singer for inhalation, for good inhalation and non-constricted inhalation and exhalation. Release the abdominal wall on the inhale, and then to have firm jelly, you know, firmness, but more firm jelly on the exhale. And so this is quite the challenge. And so the challenge of losing breath, this is a balance that every individual person who's dancer, singer, actor needs to really workshop. And Alexandria, I can only think you would have a singing teacher that you are working with. And so I'd be encouraging you to work with them, ask them if they know anything or do any work around accent method. Certainly in my Voice Essentials exercise collections, you might want to check out exercise 20, sibilant fricatives, just to work on that good sense of flex and release in the abdominal wall, just to help you get the right kind of exhale, and that might prove helpful. Ever crazy, is it true that the contralto singing voice is the deepest female voice? Well, if you were to jump on and watch my video about, find your voice type, it is the biggest video on my channel, with I think up 1.5 million views. The amount of people in the comments bemoaning the fact that I have not identified contralto, which I hear them, I do. I hear people who are, who have that really beautiful low female acoustic in their voice, but I didn't not mention it because I don't think it exists. It certainly does. Contralto can even be something that, if you start off with an alto voice, what is already deemed a low voice type for females, and then sometimes by virtue of hormone replacement therapies, and also due to menopause, the voice can lower still, and that can bring about contralto. Of course, you can be born with the anatomy that is already that significantly low voice type of contralto. Is it the deepest female voice? Well, this is more a classical singing teacher question, and I would have to go to my textbooks to check that out, because I'm not 100% certain that it is, but it's certainly one of the deepest, if not the deepest. Armando, do you breathe through your mouth or nose while singing? What is the correct way? Armando, I'm going to direct you to the channel. I've actually got a very short, less than 2 minute video on this exact question. Jump over to the channel, check it out, and the answer will be there for you in more detail. I'm going to come down here to Kim Aquino. How to improve vocal resonance. So vocal resonance. So we have the fuel of our voice, the air. We have the engine of the voice, which is the larynx, the vocal folds and everything housed within there. And then that energy that the fuel and the motor, the engine, have produced is then directed through our vocal tract. And it's the vocal tract that forms the resonance. And if we were to remove the vocal tract and we only had the fuel and the motor, it would be Have you ever heard a car that does not have an exhaust system? So an exhaust system is what the expelled air and what have you. I'm not a mechanic, but if the car does not have an exhaust system, including a muffler, it is incredibly loud and it doesn't sound great. It sounds like the car's about to die. And well, the sound coming off the vocal folds is really raw. There's no color. You would not recognize it as human sound, whether it be speech or singing. And so it's only once that really raw acoustic is traveled through the various points, the laryngopharynx, the pharynx, the oral cavity, up into the nasopharynx and the nasal cavity. It's only as it's filtered, if you think of it as a filtering of that raw energy through the vocal tract, that resonance is formed. The sound is shaped to give us what in my case, you hear as a very high and bright male tone. And so to develop resonance, we have to learn to shape and mold and manipulate everything that sits above the vocal folds. And so that's why in Voice Essentials, we look at things like soft palate shape and widening the pharyngeal wall, tongue placement, jaw position. All of twang is another area of resonance that we develop. All of these things, and all of these things change in accordance with the different vowels we form, because different vowels have different tongue positions and lip positions, and so that's how we go about developing our resonance. We have to learn to shape and mold our vocal tract shapings. And so there's plenty of free stuff on the channel, but also if you want to participate in the Voice Essentials online courses, we go through all of that. In fact, literally from Module 1, you can, actually it's free to preview, Module 1, Voice Essentials 1. Exercise 2 is we start on that development. So that's good. Jumping down here to Sean. Dr. Dan, with straw phonation, should I go into the upper register? Yes, no problems. When I do, it skips the air, starts to come out of my nose. Should it only be coming out of the mouth with the straw? So yes, when you're doing straw phonation, it should only come out of the straw. What you've come into contact with is the way the resonance, we've just been talking about resonance, the resonance changes. There's a shift in the acoustic as the voice transitions from lower register to upper register, what a lot of people call chest voice, into head voice. And there's a change in the acoustic value, which then has an interplay upon the way the vocal folds are oscillating. And so the way we position that can, play out in how we're able to maintain the lip bubble. Sorry, the straw phonation. So there's a little bit of play that you need to go around with, do in your straw phonation. And if you do have a singing teacher, I'd encourage you to play that with them, and see how you go. But yes, you can take your straw phonation right up. In fact, what you might like to do is just, instead of taking it up and back, just do a siren. I don't have a straw handy, but let's pretend that was a straw phonation. And you just take it up and learn to smoothly take the sound, the lip bubble, the siren is the word I was looking for. Learn to take that up and over. Sean, I hope that's helpful. More water. Okay, coming down. I'm going to come down to Hector. Hi, Dr. Dan. I'm struggling to keep singing at the right tempo of songs. What do you recommend to improve singing at the right tempo? Yeah, that's interesting, Hector. This is something that takes a bit of practice, and learning to sing at the right tempo. I find that students will do they'll either sing behind the beat, or in their nervousness to get everything right, they'll sing ahead of the beat, and so they're singing too fast. What you will find is that when you are able to get the voice right into the slot tempo-wise, it's called sort of sitting it in the groove, yeah? And when you're in the groove, everything just becomes, it's almost like Neo in the Matrix. Everything just slows down, and it's sort of like you can, pick notes out of the air, just like Neo picking, bullets from the air. And it's just, everything just happens so much easier. But that being said, that can be challenging to get to. It's one of the reasons in Voice Essentials, the Voice Essentials 1 course, I do have a couple of exercises within the course that I've actually purposefully slowed down for you, just for those who do struggle with the pace. Yeah, so you might want to practice with those, and that can be a really good thing to do. There are plenty of online tools, plugins for Chrome, and a whole heap of things where you can slow tempos down. What happens is people slow things down too much. So you only want to slow something down by, 10 beats per minute, or, 15%, because you don't want it to suddenly become so slow that, you're tripping over yourself. You just want to slow it down enough so you can find that groove, and then as you find your groove, you can start to speed things up again. The other thing is to externalize the beat. Now, this is not something you want to get stuck on per se, but if you are able to externalize and just give yourself, whether it's clicking your finger, tapping your foot, I have noticed over the years how many singers, when they first start learning, are very static in their physicality. There's no feeling of anything, let alone the tempo. And so learning to accentuate and move and feel the tempo, the beat, the pulse of a piece or an exercise is really important. I get very excited when a student, is moving and grooving with an exercise or a song, because it's always going to lead to a sense of really more in tune, more attached, more connected vocal. Okay, JGTV. What's your perspective about singing in a higher placement in order to achieve mixed voice? Higher placement is a very, and this is, placement firstly is a metaphorical term. It's very subjective, and whilst I work with students on developing forward placement and developing a sense of vocal position, I always stop short of telling students where it needs to be or how high it needs to be. And so it's a matter of you exploring your own sensory feedback and finding, where does it sit? Where does it want to sit? As far as you having higher placement, was a higher placement to achieve mixed voice, I wonder whether you might find it more fortuitous to actually work on how much breath pressure you're applying in achieving mixed voice. Often when we go in search of something acoustically, there will be a great temptation to lean in and to force that sound. Whereas in fact, if you can just back off the pedal a bit and just let the voice find the position that your anatomy wants to achieve, often that can be quite beneficial. So see how you go with that. See if that helps in any way. I'm going to throw the last question to, I'm just double checking that I haven't answered. Mushkan Tree. How can we sing in high notes? So how we sing in high notes is actually in part achieved how we sing our low notes. And you don't build the 80th story of an 80-story building first. You actually to build an 80-story building, you actually have to dig down first. You need to build a foundation first before you go up. And so really learning to establish good, even, solid, balanced vocal technique in just a really spoken level range, that is where you start in learning to develop higher notes. Because once you've got the balance and the freedom in the prime area of your voice, that area you're going to spend most of your time singing and speaking, then you can start applying that same sense of balance and the skills that you need to achieve said balance. Then you can start looking to apply that into where the voice goes when you go higher. Again, there are plenty of exercises that I have in said Voice Essentials 1, 2, and 3 that work on your higher register, your lower register, every register, and the connection thereof. So I'd encourage you, Mushkin, to jump on and have a look at that. Well, there you go. That's another Q&A for another week. I was looking at, as I was preparing the shows for Nadine and Sharon coming up in the next few weeks, we've been doing this a long time. I don't know if you realize, I think we're coming up to our 4th or 5th year of live Hangouts. Man, time flies when you're having fun. Hey, if you've enjoyed today's show, I hope you have. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the white bell icon, because it's only as you hit the white bell icon that you'll be reminded of when the show is going live, so that you don't miss out. You can only do that if you subscribe, so I hope you will. Next week, really important show with Nadine when we talk about transgender voice, and I'm hoping that you can join me for a really, what I think is going to be really educational, really important in our ability to understand the voice that is on that transgender journey. But until we see each other in a week's time, I very much hope you will have a great week and stay safe wherever you are. I'm Dr. Dan.